Meantime, Facebook's first week as a publicly traded company, it's been beyond rough, one could say. It has quickly gone from, initially those trading glitches on the NASDAQ and a tumbling stock price to a subpoena now and a lawsuit. Alison Kosik, she's at the New York Stock Exchange, and how a few days have changed things. Before we talk about the issues, specifically, let's talk dollars and cents. How is the price of the stock today?
Well, Facebook shares right now are up about 2%, sitting at about $31.70. You're seeing a little bit of recovery after Facebook really got hammered over the past 2 days, losing almost 20%. One trader I talked with said the range that you're seeing Facebook trade in right now seems pretty comfortable with what the market wants. And the next real big move that you could see Facebook make may come after it reports its first earnings, after in the second quarter. It would be as a public company reporting its first earnings.
What about now, Allison, the subpoena? And I want to let our viewers know I'm talking to the Secretary of the Commonwealth in the state of Massachusetts, William Galvin, next hour. He's actually it's his office that's issued the subpoena against specifically Morgan Stanley. His claim apparently is that someone within Morgan Stanley went to some of their investors and said, hang on a second, we're not getting great news as far as the financial forecast of this company. So you may want to change or alter how much you want to invest. Is that the case?
Exactly. That's exactly what the claims are, is that Morgan Stanley basically lowered its outlook on Facebook after Facebook said it would be struggling to make money off of mobile devices. But the problem is, in these claims, is that Morgan Stanley only told a select few institutional investors that it cut its outlook, this negative outlook for Facebook. So a lot of these investors saying, whoa, wait a minute, you should have told everybody. You shouldn't just cherry pick who you tell. So, a lot of people are saying the retail investor was left out in the cold, that the retail investor got screwed in this deal, that they were at a disadvantage because they didn't have that information. For Morgan Stanley's part, Morgan Stanley does say they did follow normal procedures, that they complied with regulations. Brooke?
What about Mark Zuckerberg? Because we spent all this time, hyping up this IPO. He had a great week. The guy got married. And now, is he even saying anything?
We haven't heard anything publicly about that lawsuit you mentioned, or a lawsuit filed in Manhattan court today by three investors. They filed a class action lawsuit as well against Facebook, against Zuckerberg, against Morgan Stanley, basically saying the same thing that's in that Massachusetts lawsuit. Facebook did come out and say the lawsuit in Manhattan is without merit. As far as what Zuckerberg has said, you can look to his Facebook page for that. He got married and he announced that. He said, I'm married now to Priscilla. So that's really his most public comment to date.
Alison Kosik, we appreciate it. Talk to you a little later this hour. Meantime, got a lot more for you in the course of the next 2 hours. Watch this. All right, the rough start for Facebook stock is getting rougher here. The social networking site went public on Friday amid much hype, hope, and celebration, and a technical glitch that disrupted trading in Facebook stock throughout much of the day. That was just the start of the problems for just about everyone involved in Facebook's IPO. Today, questions are being raised about whether some investors were misled about the biggest tech company stock offering in American history. And among those trying to get really to the bottom of it is William Galvin. He is Secretary of the Commonwealth in the state of Massachusetts, and he has issued this subpoena to the lead underwriter of Facebook's IPO, that being Morgan Stanley. And William, welcome to you. First question is, as we mentioned, it's your office that issued the subpoena. What specifically are you investigating here?
Well, I'm the Chief Securities Regulator of Massachusetts, and our interest is exactly how this IPO was marketed, and more specifically, what information was given to all investors, and if there were categories of investors. That's the allegation. I don't want to prejudice that. Morgan Stanley maintains that they did everything appropriately. It's now very important that they've moved promptly to prove that to us. We proceed on facts, not on assertions.
Sure.
What is a larger issue here is that average investors, average citizens invested in this. This, as you noted in your introduction, was a very widespread issue. If there's going to be confidence going forward in the marketplace, and the market right now, the financial markets are certainly recovering from an extended period of lack of confidence, then there has to be fairness in the marketplace. We cannot have a situation where there are two categories of investors, those that are well-informed because of their status or whatever future business they might deliver, and average citizens.
Sure, and that's part of the
Everyone is in
frustration, I think,
marketplace.
probably from, average folks who perhaps bought some shares of Facebook, and they're thinking, well, I didn't get wind of any of this. Should I even have faith in the marketplace as we know it today? But let me back you up. How did you even get wind?
Mm-hmm.
How did you get wind of this to then issue this subpoena?
We heard from many investors, and we've heard from even more since we issued the subpoena. My office has had a history of dealing with this type of different treatment. Just last year, we fined Goldman Sachs $10 million for their practice of treating investors differently. And previously, my office has been involved with market timing and mutual funds, the same underlying issue or concept, namely giving special preference to certain customers over others at the expense of others.
Okay.
Because of that, I think we have you might say, a specialty in this area. The issue is that Morgan Stanley needs to come forward promptly, respond to the subpoena, provide whatever information it can, because this is having a negative effect on the overall market. It's not just a Facebook issue, it's the concept out there that the market is not something that can be trusted, and that's not something we want. We all need a strong, vibrant, honest market.
Sure. Do you know, can you tell me which clients Morgan Stanley allegedly told? Which tier client?
That would be a part of our investigation.
Okay.
Again, at this point, we want all the facts. We want them promptly. We want them out there. We proceed by various on-the-record interviews and documentary evidence. That's what we want to look at. We're not interested in assertions or rumors or anything else.
Well, I don't want to
As I said,
speculate either, so I'm just going to move
interest.
you. I'm going to move you past that. And let me just ask you this, because people are throwing out this phrase, insider trading, when it comes
Sure.
to the story. And as we mentioned, these are just allegations. And as you mentioned at the top, we're dealing in
That's
facts
correct.
here. But could this, based upon what you know, might this be akin to insider trading?
Well, it could be. It depends on the specifics of the facts. What is the greater concern, as I said, is different categories of investors. We need to be assured that every investor gets treated the same. Everybody's money is just as good as everybody else's. People should not be in a position where they are treated as second-class investors. That's the overriding concern.
Let me make sure I jump in. Here's what Morgan Stanley is saying. They say it followed, and I'm quoting, the same procedures for the Facebook offering that it follows for all IPOs. So to your point here, faith in the market, assuring every investor. What is your assurance right now here on national TV to all investors, all clients here on the market?
Well, the only way you can get assurance is by facts. As I said, we've had a history, my office had a history in dealing in facts. That's why we fined Goldman $10 million. They had a categorization they euphemistically called huddles with investors and with analysts and traders. We need to get to the facts. That can only be done on the record and with documentary evidence. It's imperative that Morgan Stanley respond immediately so that they can clear the air here. If there's something to be pursued, we will definitely pursue it.
Based upon what you know, how would you characterize that?
Well, I would characterize of great concern. Obviously, the breadth of this issue, the amount of money. I testified before the Financial Services Committee of the U.S. House just last Thursday before this issue was out. I raised issues then about procedure, and in fact the Goldman matter came up at that time. Here we are a matter of days later, and literally billions of dollars, at least based on the current trade, I know it's up a little bit today, billions of dollars have been, at least on paper, lost. Many of those investors are smarting from that experience right now. How do you get people to invest in the market? How do you get people of confidence? You have to have facts you can rely on, and that's what regulators are for.
Yeah.
That is why we need to establish the facts, not based on press statements,
Right.
but on facts.
Right. William Galvin, we'll be following those facts and that investigation. We appreciate
Thank
you there for us in Massachusetts. Now, this Massachusetts subpoena, this is just one sliver of the problems for Facebook and its partners here in this stock offering. And Julianne Pepitone is following the aftermath of the Facebook IPO for us at CNN Money. And Julianne, there are so many moving parts to this story. Let's just begin with the lawsuit investors have filed. Tell me about that.
Yeah, this morning, a group of investors filed a lawsuit against Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, and the bank's underwriters of the deal. And what they're alleging is that Facebook improperly disclosed certain information to just the big banks who were able to tell their clients, their kind of big hedge funds, institutional clients, and they didn't disclose that information to regular mom and pop investors, which is a big problem, as far as regulatory bodies are concerned, if the allegations are true.
What about the technical glitches that they experienced with the NASDAQ on Friday? Where does that stand? Have we worked through those glitches?
Yeah, the problems with Facebook's IPO began right at the start of trading. We were expecting Facebook to begin trading at about 11 on Friday. That was delayed by a half hour, and even when it began trading, there were people saying, I don't know if my order has gone through, I don't know what happened to my order, I don't know if I got a share. So 5 days later, they're still working through those problems. There's a technical glitch that caused the delay in the initial trading. There are still a lot of traders who are confused, though, about what happened with their trades. Some people got the shares for more than they expected to be paying for them. Some of them just disappeared into the ether. So NASDAQ is still working that out.
With all of these issues, I just do have to lift the veil and ask this question when it comes to the media, because if you pick up any paper on Friday, it was certainly front page news, Facebook and the IPO. Certainly, cable networks picked it up as well and have been the last couple of days. Is the media at all to blame?
There are a lot of people pointing fingers at the media and just at the general hype. It's important to note that for a lot of people investing in a single company, you have to know a lot about that company. There are a lot of risks involved in getting into an IPO, and banks try to, make sure that people who are just getting into it know that. But still, you're seeing it everywhere. People are so interested. There has not been an IPO that's been as hyped as Facebook in a long time. So there are a lot of people blaming the hype for kind of saying, oh, everything's going to be great. It's Facebook. It touches a lot of people's lives. It's so exciting. But now the reality we're seeing is very different than what the hype was.
Julianne Pepitone, thank you. We'll wait and see if Mark Zuckerberg ever does come out and say anything after all of this and after we saw him on Friday. I appreciate it, Julianne. Thank you. Got a lot more for you in the next 2 hours, including this.